Hello guys, Greg back with another video on the channel. It's all killer, no filler. So this is part 2 of my new weekly series featuring the top 5 fragrances from various perfume houses. Obviously this is just my personal favourites, it's not a definitive list or anything like that. Last week's video was on the House of Diptyque. I'm going to leave a link in the video description below for that one. I'll also set up a playlist on the channel where all the videos from this series will sit. Apologies about the quality of the video and the lighting. I'm having to film this late at night because we're in lockdown here. I'm having to wait until the kids have gone to bed to get some quiet to do the video, but hopefully it'll be all right. So today's featured brand is one, it's had kind of a lot of ups and downs in terms of producing good fragrances. It's actually going through quite a good phase at the moment. But having said that, all of the 5 fragrances that made the top 5 are older ones and they're all discontinued, unfortunately. But being as the top 5 are all older ones, I wanted to at least talk about one of the current fragrances. So this is kind of like an honourable mention, and this one is Gucci Guilty Absolute. And I really enjoy this one. To me, this smells a little bit like sort of bandages and disinfectant. That doesn't really sound very appealing, but it really is a very good scent. It's not one for the masses. It's actually a really brave release from a designer house, because this one's not going to grab the attention of your average consumer that's sort of sniffing top notes in a department store. It's very creative and it's just really good in my opinion. It's got a ton of leather in here, lots of vetiver. There's a great cypress note in here, and as I said, it just really reminds me of like a medicinal hospital type of smell. There's not much development in there, but I'm not too worried. If I like a fragrance, I'm quite happy if it's linear and stays all you know, the same all the way through. But yeah, I don't expect this one to be around for very long because, as I said, it isn't one for the masses and it will probably not sell well and will probably end up being discontinued, which will be a shame. But that's kind of, like I say, an honourable mention, and that is Gucci Guilty Absolute. So on to the actual top 5. And the one I've chosen to put at number 5, and these could have been in pretty much in any order, but this one is a classic 80s aromatic fougere. This is a real true gentleman's scent in my opinion. And this one is Gucci Nobile. And it's about as good as it gets, really, in my opinion, for a classy, distinguished, mature gentleman type of fragrance. It's fresh and green, it's woody, it's mossy. The top's got a very nice citrus. It's lemon and bergamot at the top, but it develops after a few seconds and you get hit with some lavender. And then when it develops, you get oak moss, you get woods and vetiver, and it sort of sits with some musk in the base as well. But it's just pure class. If you don't want to look for this and pay crazy eBay prices, because it is very hard, one to maybe look at is Drakkar Noir. It's not as good as Gucci Nobile, but it's definitely a decent alternative that gives the same sort of effect. So number 4, we're going to go with this one, and all of the top 4 are actually from the time of Tom Ford's reign as creative director at Gucci. And this one was a 2000 release. And this is Gucci Rush, which is in this odd sort of plastic bottle, and I'm very low on this. I don't know if you can see, but there's not much left in there at all. I'm not sure if ISO E Super was sort of widely used back in 2000 when this one came out, but I definitely get an ISO E Super feel from this. And this is quite a simple smelling fragrance, but there's actually quite a lot of different aspects to it. I usually refer to this as being a cedar fragrance, but there's probably as much cypress in here as there is cedar. It's definitely got a peppery undertone. There's a juniper note in here that sort of comes in and out. And as I said, there's lots of cedar throughout the core of the fragrance. And then it sits on a base of white musk. Actually, probably musk is more accurate, because it smells like there's more than one type of musk in here. It is a really great fragrance, but again, it's hard to find and it's discontinued. I would say the best alternative that I've come across that's still available, you probably have to look on eBay to find it, but it's called Sartoriale by the brand Zileri. And my pronunciation of Italian is not great, so I will leave that, the name of that in the video description below if anyone wants to try and find it. Again, it's not an identical fragrance, but it's definitely a good alternative. Right, number 3, and a lot of people probably would have this as number 1, I think. This is the original Gucci Pour Homme. I haven't got a lid for this one, but this is the 2003 fragrance. A really great cedar incense fragrance. There's more going on in here than just that. At the top you get ginger and papyrus, but to my nose it really is all about that cedar and incense. It's got this great colour to it, the juice. and it kind of gives you the feel that it's going to be heavy on amber, but I do pick up some amber in this, but not very much at all. It's just a hint. But this is a dry, smoky fragrance. It's got a real air of class about it. Good projection, sillage, longevity is fantastic, lasts all day. Again, this is going to be really hard to find. The good news on this one is that there is a really good alternative, and that is Bentley Absolute for men. It's a really good alternative to that, which you're going to be able to pick up for a really good price. Number 2, and this was close between number 1 and 2, but this one is the beautiful green juice. So I was going to take the cap off because it covers most of the bottle, so you can see. Look at that. So this one is Gucci Envy. Now the star of the show with this one is ginger. As soon as this hits your skin, you get a beautiful waft of ginger mixed with some spices. I'm not very good at picking out spices, but I think it's coriander or nutmeg, and there's definitely cinnamon in here as well. But it's just such a good fragrance. The ginger stays around throughout the sort of life of the fragrance. It develops, it becomes woody. There's lots of different types of woody notes in here. And then when it dries down, you get incense and you get vanilla. But this one's definitely a 10 out of 10. I'm sure people could sort of spend a lot more time breaking it down, but what I've described is just what I get from it. I think it's a masterpiece. In terms of cheaper alternatives for this one, the closest one that's readily available is probably Santal by the house of Floris. Again, not identical, but it's similar, and it's actually a really good fragrance in its own right. So that is number 2 from the house of Gucci. That is Envy. So my favourite fragrance from the house of Gucci is also one of my favourite fragrances of all time. Definitely my top 10. And this is Gucci Pour Homme 2, or Gucci Pour Homme 2 if you prefer. And this is a perfect accompaniment to the first. These sit really well together. The Gucci Pour Hommes are more sort of deeper, darker, more robust fragrance, whereas Pour Homme 2 is lighter, it's calmer, but it's like the equally as classy brother, but is in a very different way. But this Gucci Pour Homme 2 just has a real effect on me. As soon as I spray this, I just get this real calming effect. You know, it just makes me feel chilled out. The magic in this one is black tea and violet leaf. They're the two really fantastic things that blend in here. You also get some beautiful soft woods in here. There's cinnamon, there's musk, and there's myrrh. But it's a beautifully blended fragrance. Again, a complete 10 out of 10. This is the most recently discontinued out of the 5 fragrances, but it's already really hard to find and already really expensive. And unfortunately, I can't really suggest a good alternative because it's a pretty unique scent, that one. So there you go, guys. That is my favourite 5 fragrances from the house of Gucci. I'll have another top 5 next week. Hopefully I'll have another video out before that as well. And remember that you can purchase all 5 of these, and well, actually all 6 with the honourable mention, as well as over 1,000 other fragrances from my online store, which is fragrancesamplesuk.com. Unfortunately, we're only currently shipping to the UK. We will be reopening European shipping hopefully within about 2 weeks. So thanks again for watching, guys. See you all soon. Cheers.